Okay.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this very first forum for candidates, Democratic candidates running for office. The DeKalb Dems are delighted to have you here this evening as our audience, and also delighted to have these Democratic candidates with us this evening. You're going to meet them very soon, along with our moderators, Dan and Ladina. And you're going to get a chance to hear a lot about the Lieutenant Governor's office and what it does and what these particular Democrats can do for you in that office. And again, we're just overwhelmed with excitement for having the kinds of candidates that we have here with us this evening, because that's our job with DeKalb Dems, is to support Democrats and get them in office. So I'm Gloria Moore. I'm a vice chair of DeKalb Dems, and also co-chair with Steve Parker of the Special Events Committee. And I want to thank Steve and a couple of other folks. And I don't want to call out a whole bunch of names because I know I'll miss somebody, but I must absolutely recognize Paula Anderson and Kathy Gilbreth for helping to make this happen tonight in all kinds of ways. So thank you also to all the folks who are behind the scenes, who are Zooming for us, helping us Zoom, and helping us broadcast this particular event on Facebook Live, on Twitter, and on YouTube. So one of the things I would ask is that anyone who is not speaking, please keep your microphone off. That includes speakers. And those of you who are in our audience, we won't have time to do questions this evening, but we do want your questions because we want to share them after this program with our esteemed guest. They may have an opportunity to get back with you with answers, right? So put your questions in the chat if you're on the Zoom, and of course, any comments you'd like to make as well. The same thing with Facebook, with YouTube, and with Twitter. We would love to have your comments about this program and your questions. And again, we will share those with our candidates. So
I've got a video ready, Gloria, whenever you're ready for me to roll it too.
Fantastic. Thank you for reminding me. We want to tell you about DeKalb Dems. Okay, let me get you back on the agenda. And I want to introduce you to the man who is arguably the very best Democratic Party chair in the state of Georgia. That is John Jackson. John, I'm going to turn the program over to you.
Thank you so much, Gloria. I want to thank everyone who's tuning in tonight. You're in for a treat. I also want to thank the organizers of this event, Third Vice Chair Gloria Moore, Events Co-Chair Steve Parker. I want to thank everyone else who's been involved with making this event happen. I want to thank the candidates who stepped up to run in battleground Georgia. As we think about what politically is going on right now, of historical confirmation hearing of potentially the first Black woman to serve on the United States Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown Jackson. That confirmation would not likely be possible if we had not done the work we have done in Georgia. And she has a strong shot at being confirmed because we elected 2 senators, because we helped President Joe Biden reach the electoral votes necessary to win. And DeKalb is the largest of the super blue counties. We are 100% Democratic in our legislative delegation, but also 100% Democratic with our county commissioners. We maintain that by building a year in, year out strategy. We don't go away after the election. We continue to do the work. You can learn more at DeKalbDems.com. We're always in need of motivated people to volunteer and support our many efforts like these forums. Whatever your skill set is, we can put it to use for these midterms and beyond. Also, don't forget, we also need donations, so you can click on the link that will be provided in the chat section. No amount is too small, and guess what? No amount is too large either. We'll take large and small donations. And without further ado, I want to introduce our moderators for the night. Our first moderator is Dan Weisenhunt, who's actually not affiliated with DeKalb County Democrats, but he's an outstanding independent local journalist with Decatur-ish, and he covers local DeKalb County issues. And we also have Dr. Ladina Bolton, an esteemed scientist who's a committee member here at DeKalb Dems, who is also the former VP of DeKalb Young Democrats. I'm gonna hand it over to the moderators now. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, John. Good evening, candidates. Hope everyone is doing well. I'm going to give you the ground rules really quickly, how this is going to work. Each candidate is going to have 1 minute and 30 seconds to give us an opening statement. I have a very high-tech method for notifying you when you have 10 seconds left. That is to put my index finger in the air. So if you see this, it means you need to wrap it up. If that becomes a problem later on for whatever reason, I will say you have 10 seconds left, and we'll try it that way. Candidates will be called in alphabetical order just due to the sheer number of candidates, but we will alternate starting at the top and the bottom of that alphabetical order list. So for example, the first statement will start with Eric Allen and end with Representative Shannon. And then the second question will start with Representative Shannon and end with Representative Allen. So that's how things are going to proceed. And we thank you all for joining us. And we're going to launch into it right now and be respectful of everybody's time. So Representative Eric Allen, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds to make your opening statement.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you, DeKalb Democrats, for hosting this forum tonight. I'm Eric Allen, state representative representing Georgia's 40th district, which is primarily in Cobb County, but also straddles across the river into North Atlanta. Been in the legislature for the last 2 terms, but first ran in 2014. Ran in 2014, ran again in 2016, finally flipped a seat from a 20-year incumbent in 2018 and won re-election with over 60% of the vote in 2020. I am the only legislator in either chamber who has worked as an executive in state government and also served as a leader of the legislature. And I am running for lieutenant governor because I understand firsthand the challenges that we have in Georgia, that the challenges are not unique, but the solutions that we have that we must find should be. And I am ready to work for you. I believe in Georgia, and I'm just here tonight to ask for your support and convince you to believe in Georgia with me.
Thank you. Our next statement is from Charlie Bailey. Charlie Bailey, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds to make your opening statement.
Thank you very much, and appreciate it, Dan. Thank you to the DeKalb Democrats for hosting us tonight. My name is Charlie Bailey, and I'm running to be the next Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Georgia. Y'all, I'm running for Lieutenant Governor because every day the vast majority of Georgians, they get up, they go to work, and they're worried about, is my kids safe? How are they doing in school? If I get a hospital bill, can I pay it? Do I have the insurance to pay it? Do I have the money in my account to pay it? And instead of working on those issues that are closest to the hearts of the people of Georgia, our two main Republican opponents in this race are in a competition over who can be the biggest authoritarian. You got one of them, Burt Jones, who signed up to be a false elector for Donald Trump, tried to overturn an election. Another, Butch Miller, who recently brought Marjorie Taylor Greene, a white nationalist, to the floor of the state Senate as some sort of sign of the kind of support that he wants. And that comes from a politics of hate and division. They can do those things, and they can come to the conclusions that, not everybody's vote matters the same, and not everybody's community matters the same, and not everybody's child matters the same. Well, I'll tell you what I believe. I believe we all breathe the same air. We all love our families, and we all deserve the same respect. That's what I'll work on as Lieutenant Governor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will go to Tyrone Brooks Jr. Tyrone Brooks Jr., excuse me. You will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to make your opening statement.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the Democratic Party of DeKalb County for inviting me out. It's a great occasion to meet with all of the candidates, and it's a blessing to be here. The reason I'm running for lieutenant governor is because I wanted to have an honest discussion with Georgia and our legislature about expanding Georgia's economy first, and also making sure that all of our residents have an opportunity to prosper and thrive, and we have safe communities. I'm from Georgia. I consider myself Georgia itself, family all over this state, from Augusta to Atlanta, Savannah, got family all in Brunswick, and I've toured this state. And I've had the great opportunity to partner with great organizations. I've been working in the City of Atlanta Mayor's office over the last 6 years. I've been the manager of our youth entrepreneurship program and our youth engagement. And we do a lot of different things in our communities. We focus on families first. So this encompasses healthcare. This encompasses economic development. I like to bring Office of Equity Ethics all across Georgia. And I like to focus on investing in our rural communities, investing in our urban communities. I like to ensure that we have the highest paid police officers in the state. I like to ensure that our police officers have 21st century policing that was championed by President Obama. And, this is just a time for us to have bold initiatives and new leadership. I think that with Georgia having the 10th largest economy in the nation, if we had true investment statewide, we could easily venture into the top 5. So I'm looking into having an honest conversation with everyone, residents, our legislators.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next, we will hear from Tony Brown. Tony Brown, are you with us? Going once, going twice.
I do see Tony Brown in the chat. He may need to be upgraded to a panelist position.
Okay, but I don't see him. Okay, well, we'll circle back to around. Let's see if we can get Tony Brown. Next, we will hear from Congressman Kwanzaa Hall. You have 30 seconds, Congressman.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Thank you to the DeKalb Dems. I really appreciate you all hosting this forum. I'm Congressman Kwanzaa Hall. I served out the last portion of Congressman John Lewis's term. He was a friend, a neighbor, a mentor of mine, and that was one of my proudest moments, even though I served 15 years on Atlanta City Council, representing the heart of the city, downtown, midtown, Old Fourth Ward, Emmett Park, Ponce Highlands. Saw a tremendous amount of investment there. And I really been focused on business. But I have to say I'm concerned about the future of our state because too many people are still struggling financially and suffering here. I've decided that it makes sense that I offer myself for service because I want to make sure that everybody in Georgia can enjoy life with affordable health care, housing, a good education for our children, equal treatment under the law, a fair shot at prosperity through good paying jobs and opportunities for entrepreneurship. I'm Kwanzaa Hall, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. I'm asking you to vote early on May 2nd through May 24th. Support my campaign by signing up at KwanzaaHall.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Congressman. And if you could turn your camera on for the next question, that would be awesome. Thank you so much. Our next question is going to go to Jason Hayes. Is Jason Hayes with us?
Yes, I am. How you doing?
Doing great. You have a minute and 30 seconds, Jason. Dr. Hayes.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank the DeKalb County Democrats for allowing me to come and speak with you. My name is Dr. Jason Hayes, Democratic candidate for Lieutenant Governor right here in the great state of Georgia. I'm a physician, small business owner in Alpharetta. You may have heard back in 2020, I actually ran for state rep, House District 49 as a first-time candidate. I ended up getting 54% of the vote for the primary election. And then for the general election, ended up getting 47.2% of the vote in Alpharetta / Johns Creek, House District 49, which is a very red Republican conservative district. Showed that not only I was a great candidate for Democrats, but a candidate that Republicans respect. So the question I get all the time is, why not run again for House District 49? And I tell people that Alpharetta is going to be fine, but we need to be more concerned about the state of Georgia. As a physician, I have 4 concerns or 4 platform items I want to discuss. One is healthcare. Georgia's ranked 43rd in healthcare, and we also have one of the highest maternal morbidity and mortality numbers in the United States of America. I will push for Medicaid expansion and also push to make sure that we get doctors in underserved areas, in particular the south of Georgia. Number 2, education. Both of my paternal grandparents were school teachers, have an affinity for education. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for education. So what we want to do is make sure we support school teachers and also make sure that we push to make sure that education is a priority. 2, we also want to make 3, we also want to make sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Hayes.
Right.
Our next opening statement will be from Representative Derek Jackson. Mr. Jackson, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me and see me?
I can hear and see you just fine, Representative. You have
Great.
a minute and 30 seconds.
Hello, DeKalb Dems, and thank you for having us. Listen, with a crowded field of 9 individuals who are running for Lieutenant Governor, and I appreciate them being here tonight as well, because it's real easy for DeKalb Dems to look at all 9 of us and see who's the best qualified individual to help Stacey Abrams govern Georgia. Listen, it's real easy to fight against someone when you got a crowded field of 9 individuals. I would like to suggest something a little bit different tonight. You will hear from me tonight what I fight for and what I continue to fight for. I'm a candidate for Lieutenant Governor that brings leadership, compassion, and capability. Since I joined the Navy in 1983, during my 22 years in the Navy, I was fighting for democracy. I was fighting for voting rights, women's rights, LGBTQ rights. So I haven't just been doing this since the last couple of years. I've been doing this since 1983. And so tonight, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully and prayerfully that you will look at everybody's resume and understand that leadership matters, experience matters, character matters, integrity matters, and how do we deal with these big issues in Georgia matters. And so we're all probably going to say the same thing, the 9 of us, but more importantly, there are different ways to get there, and this experience will help us get there. Thank you.
Thank you. I see that Tony Brown has been able to join us. Tony Brown, can you hear us? I can see your name. I'm not seeing a video. All right, we're still working on that. Rashid Malik, are you with us? Going once. Okay, I don't think Rashid Malik is here, so we're gonna skip that candidate. The next candidate on our list is Representative Renita Shannon. Representative Shannon, are you with us?
I am. Thank you for having me. I'm State Representative Renita Shannon. I've been serving in the House of Representatives for the last 6 years. Is my video on? I got a pop-up saying that the video is not on.
I do not see your video, Representative.
Okay.
I see it now.
Okay, great. All right, because on my side it was on, but I got to pop up. Okay, great. So I've been serving in the House of Representatives for the last 6 years. And in that time, I've been fighting for the priorities that matter to working families. I have, before I was elected, I was a community organizer and a successful business executive. I come from a family of 2 hardworking parents. My mom was a nurse. My dad was a pastor and a community organizer before they had a fancy word for what he was doing. I'm running for lieutenant governor now because I know that regressive policies have shaped a harsh reality for far too many Georgians, particularly working Georgians. And I also know that Georgia's inherent value is its people, but we're losing a lot of that value due to our failure to expand Medicaid, our failure to protect voting rights, our failure to end mass incarceration, and our failure to provide working families a livable wage. We need a lieutenant governor that's going to fight for our collective future. That person is me. I'm Renita Shannon, running for lieutenant governor.
Thank you, Representative Shannon. We are going to take just a second and see if we can get Tony Brown. He's having a little technical trouble. Tony, can you try to unmute your microphone and turn on your camera? Okay. Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to move on. Dr. Bolton, I'm going to turn the next question over to you, and I will still be keeping time.
Candidates, at least 8 of the candidates with us today. And I do want to remind everyone who's watching and who's on the Zoom that all of the candidates were invited. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into the first question. And remember, candidates, you do have 60 seconds to answer the question. So the lieutenant governor's main jobs are to serve as president of the Senate and to serve as acting governor if the governor is removed from office due to death, resignation, or impeachment. As president of the Senate, the lieutenant governor presides over debate in the Senate and casts a tie-breaking vote if necessary. So she or he also has the power to move legislation through the legislative process. And as president of the Senate, the lieutenant governor has an impact on the path a bill will go through legislatively to get to the Senate floor. So the question is, how will you use this power to positively impact the state of Georgia and a likely Republican-controlled Senate? Okay, and I know that was a mouthful, and if you need me to repeat the question, just the question part of it, I'll be happy to do so. But we're going to go in reverse order, and Representative Renita Shannon, please answer the question for us.
Sure. Thank you for the question. One of the powers that's not talked about enough within the lieutenant governor's office is the power to appoint chairs to committees. This matters because when we want to see our values advanced, we need to have strong committee chairs who will advance our values and who we can trust to fight for our values. So I will use this position to appoint chairs who would advance our values to make sure that the legislation that we want to see will make it through committee. And I would appoint folks who also are really strong in policy. The other thing that I would do is the lieutenant governor gets lots of appointments. If you look at any legislation you see come up today for commissions, for study committees, the lieutenant governor gets to do a lot of making appointments. So again, I would use that authority to make sure that we are appointing people who will advance our values.
Thank you so much, and right within time. Derek Jackson, will you answer the question for us as well?
Dr. Bolton, thank you for the question. And you outlined it very well. But let me, within the prescribed time, let me just say, as lieutenant governor, there's a reason why the last 12 lieutenant governors have came from either the state or the House legislature, because you have to be very familiar with the legislative process. If I was lieutenant governor, I would do the same thing that this current lieutenant governor did, which is to make sure to assign bills, especially bad bills that are not good for any Georgian family, to a committee to where I know that bill will die. If I were your lieutenant governor, Senate Bill 202 would not be law in Georgia. That's a bad bill. Our voting rights are at stake, and any bill that threatens that kind of democracy, as a retired naval officer, I will make sure I will assign it to a committee to kill that bill.
Thank you, Representative Jackson. Dr. Hayes.
Yes, thank you. I would push for legislation. And one of the things that I would love to do is to make sure that I meet with every one of the state senators and push that we make sure that healthcare is a priority, push that education is a priority, make sure that economic growth is a priority, and then finally make sure we remove SB 202. The American people of Georgia deserve better, and we need to make sure that someone is there representing them moving forward. Thank you.
Straight to the point.
Yes.
Congressman Hall, will you answer the question for us, please?
Yes, thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much. Well, first of all, the position is one that leans on leadership and relationships. As we've seen in the past, many Republican leaders of the Senate who were lieutenant governor also saw their powers taken away, as we saw happen often more effectively with Mark Taylor, who was a Democrat. I have extensive legislative experience. I passed or co-authored over 750 pieces of legislation as a city councilman. And I would do the same to be a defender of what's right, but also be a person who can bring people together to get things done. So that's why I'm running for lieutenant governor, to offer myself to be that type of server and that type of person who can connect dots and deliver even in times of challenge and controversy. Thank you.
Thank you. And Tony Brown, are you able to speak? Can you give us a hello so we'll know if you're able to join us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Awesome, awesome. So you have 60 seconds also to answer the question.
Okay, wow, my picture's still not up.
Your video is still off to us. We do not see you.
Okay. Hey, great. I'm gonna go back and I'll try to add on it. Name is Tony Brown. Decorated military officer, worked at the highest level of government as an executive officer in the Pentagon. Why I put out 2 years ago in the newspaper that I was running for lieutenant governor. And as lieutenant governor, you know, we have a staff of under 10 folks, but my main agenda is also to do what's asked of our next governor, Stacey Abrams. A couple of personal agendas that I would like to do, but I'm definitely confident in making sure our agenda, the blue agenda, is you know, going forward, and that we're doing progressive ideas and so forth. I have what, 1 minute left? Is that? I see you.
You are out of time, Tony. Sorry.
No video.
No, oh, thank you for that. And we do understand you had technical difficulties. After we finished the initial question with all of the candidates, we'll give you 60 seconds to go back and give your opening statement.
Okay, hey, thank you.
Awesome. All righty, and moving on to the next candidate, Tyrone Brooks. Will you answer the question, please?
Thank you. With the goal in mind of getting something done, getting bills that are going to progress Georgia signed into law, it's going to start with relationships. It's going to start with understanding the mechanisms of the state Senate and understanding who are the key players. So I think you always want to start with the leadership, both parties. You want to have a clear understanding of who's going to be on, who's going to vote in which way. But I think most importantly, you want to start with identifying the bills that are most important to all Georgians. All Georgians want communities to be safe. They want an opportunity to prosper. And I think if you have a pragmatic approach and reaching out on both sides of the aisle, you'll be able to identify what things everyone would be able to embrace. You want to start there. I understand killing bills and putting bills in bad committees and things of that nature, but that's going to always come back. You're going to have a bottleneck of different things not being able to get done. So you want to be pragmatic. You want to start there and keep it middle of the road and identify what can actually get done, and keeping relationships intact. That'll do that.
Thank you. Excuse me. Attorney Bailey, will you answer the question, please?
Yeah, so we start with the proposition that, you know, we're going to speak it into existence and we'll have a Governor Stacey Abrams under this scenario. With the Governor Stacey Abrams, she's going to be captain of the ship. and I'll be, God willing, her right-hand man. All right, so she sets the course. These are the things we need to get done, and then we go about getting them done. There's been some mention, and Representative Jackson pointed it out, a big power of the Lieutenant Governor is to determine which committee a bill goes to. You can't control whether someone offers a bill, but you can control how far in the process that bill gets. And so I will freely use that power to, if it's a bill that hurts the people of Georgia, if it's there to prop up special interests, then we'll put it in a committee where it won't come out. If it's the captain's bills, we'll make sure they go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we get to the last candidate, I just want to say I appreciate how each of you are so optimistic about us winning the gubernatorial race with our leader, Stacey Abrams. It's great to hear all of you saying that, and I want to continue to hear that throughout this forum. This is really exciting this evening. But our Representative Eric Allen, please answer the question.
Well, thank you for the question. And it's easy to be optimistic when you have someone who's so qualified and has been doing the work, and as she says, just needs the job. But to me, the power is exercised in a couple of ways. It's relationships, it's committees like people have talked about, and it's understanding the rules, the legislative rules. With relationships, making sure that not only people in your party, but all the senators in the room, but also across the hall, the speaker, the leadership in the House, because this is three-dimensional chess. It's not checkers. It's got to be some strategy involved. And people have mentioned putting the bills in the right committees to make sure that they're either moving at the pace you want them to move or not moving at all, but also using the rules of the Senate to make sure that bills can be stalled, stopped at any point. Everybody's talking about SB 202. There were two opportunities for the Lieutenant Governor to rule in favor of a challenge so that bill wouldn't have gone to the floor. And the main was on germaneness. So by understanding those rules, I think that's where the Lieutenant Governor can exercise the most power.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. There was a note in the chat reminding everybody, if you have anyone in your circle that is not registered to vote, you can go to the Secretary of State's website, or DeKalb Democrats has a link to help you with that, in addition to registering or applying for your absentee ballots, guys. So we did communicate to you that we would allow Mr. Tony Brown about 60 seconds to go back and give his opening statement because of the technical issues that he was experiencing early on. And go ahead and give us your opening statement, Mr. Brown.
You're on mute, sir.
Oh, mute. You can hear me?
Can hear you now.
Okay, fantastic. I'm Tony Brown. As I said earlier, 2 years ago, I put in the paper that I was running for Lieutenant Governor. My background is a military, intelligence officer, medical service corps officer, worked at the highest level of government, had congressional affairs under me at the Defense Intelligence Agency, and definitely a family man and a Christian, married to a social worker, and I have 3 wonderful girls. Been involved in the local politics, trying to do everything that I can on the blue side, and I'm thanks that all the candidates have showed up, and thanks for the party, and we'll continue the conversations. Hey, thanks.
Thank you so much. And we're going to move on to question number 2. Dan, would you like to introduce the question?
Thank you, Dr. Bolton. So as we discussed in our opening remarks, one of the most important jobs that the Lieutenant Governor would have is taking over for the governor in case the governor is not able to serve for any reason. So my question is simply, what experience do you have that you think would make you a capable governor if you have to take over as governor for any reason? And we're going to start with Representative Allen. You have 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Dan, for the question. So for me, it's fairly simple, straightforward. I have experience as an executive in state government. Prior to running for office, I was executive director of development for the Department of Behavioral Health. and development of disabilities. I understand how government works and knows what's needed. And it's really what drove me to run for office, to serve in a better capacity. I'm also experienced in the legislature, understanding how things get done, understanding the budget, which is the one fundamental responsibility of the legislature every year is to pass a balanced budget. So understanding that process, understanding the people, like I said earlier, not only in the chambers, but also in the halls and also in the community, to make sure that that experience is used to continue the Abrams agenda and moving the state forward.
Thank you. Charlie Bailey, same question to you.
Yeah, right now, the single biggest determining factor in whether a piece of legislation passes or not, what gets made law, is how much a particular special interest is paying their lobbyist. I've spent a career going up against powerful interests and fighting for justice, both in the criminal system and in the civil system. I know what it is to take on powerful interests, whether those are the leaders of organized crime syndicates, as I was an organized crime prosecutor in Fulton County, or whether they're powerful insurance companies and big corporations that are trying to take advantage of small businesses. I will take that same fight for justice and that same fight to those powers that exploit the people of Georgia, whether that's on their environmental rights, their healthcare rights, their rights under the criminal justice system. I'll take that same passion, that same fight, and that same experience to get things done for the people of Georgia.
Thank you. Tyrone Brooks, same question to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, obviously, I feel as though I've been in politics my entire life. I've had the opportunity to study at the foot of icons in civil service. And, I've always understood how bills are passed and signed into law. So I'll always carry that with me. But I have experience as an executive in the private sector, running a venture capital firm and working with different communities and funding small businesses before I came into the city, before I got into City Hall. And I've taken that into City Hall with me, and I've built vast and diverse constituencies from the philanthropic community, our corporate partners, low-income areas, our police departments, and we've all worked together collectively to identify opportunities for communities. And I know that's what's needed at the state level. So understanding what needs to be done, a veteran in community engagement, always of the community and working in the community. And I love to bring that approach to the state, and with a strong focus on equity. So this is my experience, and this is what's needed at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Brown, same question to you. 1 minute. You're on mute, sir. You with us, Tony? All right, we're going to circle back to Tony. Congressman Hall, same question to you, sir. 1 minute.
Yes, thank you again. Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I would love to serve side by side with Stacey Abrams as governor. That would be a wonderful day for me, and I think for our state, and also to see Senator Warnock at the top of our state as a leader. My first order of business, if there were some reason why she was no longer governor, maybe president or some other issue, I would convene the cabinet. I would also reach out to former governors, in particular Governor Barnes, and get some insights about things that we can do to move our state forward in light of the current situation. I have 15 years of experience on the Atlanta School Board, City Council, and in Congress. I've worked at all these levels of government. I think I've demonstrated not only through a track record of delivering legislation, but also advocacy and bringing people together to get things done. Again, it's always herding cats, and it's also using the executive power that one has in the governor's office to manage positive change in the right direction. And that's why I'm running for lieutenant governor. Thank you so much.
Congressman. Tony Brown, have you able to get that sorted out, sir? All right. We're going to move to Dr. Jason Hayes. Same question to you. What experience do you have that you think would make you a capable governor if you have to take over as governor for any reason? You have 1 minute.
Absolutely. I've been preparing for public service my whole life. Family members in the military, mother's a nurse. I've also worked to become a physician. Well, I've also studied with a master's in public health. I've worked as a congressional intern. I've also worked on the state level. I've led physicians in state scientific committees. I've done a lot. But what I tell people is that when you're the lieutenant governor, you're the number two. You're the number two quarterback, but you have to prepare to be the starter at any moment. And if I'm called to start, called to lead, I'll be ready. One thing I tell people is that a physician, every day, people's lives are in my hand. One right move, one wrong move. So you have to be ready for the good, the bad, the ugly of the position. I'm mentally, physically, and emotionally prepared to make the decision for the best interest of the American people right here in Georgia.
Thank you. Representative Jackson, same question to you. You have 60 seconds.
Dan, thank you for the question. Let me just cut straight to the chase. I have 38 years of leadership and service experience, 38. 22 years in the Navy, where I started off as an enlisted and retired as a lieutenant commander. I understand what it means to understand the big picture and make life decision, make those decisions that matters most to all Georgians. But then I didn't stop there. I got 10 years in corporate America as a corporate executive, understand how to look at the budget. That's the other significant piece that impacts all working families here in Georgia. And then 6 years as a state legislator. So when you look at that 38 years, I will be ready if something should happen to the governor to step in and efficiently and effectively carry out the duties and role of the governor immediately without any kind of impact to Georgia as a whole.
Thank you. Representative Shannon, same question to you, 60 seconds.
Thank you. Well, although I do have a diverse background, I'm going to lean in on my legislative experience. Serving in the House, I have been fighting for our values. I have been one of the folks who fought the hardest for our values, but at the same time, I've been able to get something done. I'm the only person in this race who can say that they've been able to get Republicans to expand Medicaid even just a little bit. This was in 2019, when Republicans were trying to outlaw abortion, I sponsored a bill to expand postpartum Medicaid, which would work to decrease the maternal mortality rate in Georgia. That was an effort of getting the money into the budget, working with other legislators like Representative Kendrick, Mabel Thomas, the Republican budget chair, and also community organizations to force Republicans to do this because this was not their priority. And so at the end of the day, the experience that I think is most helpful for a lieutenant governor is someone who's served in the General Assembly and understands how things work.
Thank you, Representative Shannon. Tony Brown, are you with us? Going once. Okay, well, we have to move on. Dr. Bolton, I will turn the next question over to you.
Thank you, Dan. And we certainly have a well-qualified slate of candidates here. So we're going to have some really hard decisions to make come May 24th when we go to the polls for the primaries, except for those who will be filling out their absentee ballot applications at home. And so we appreciate you giving us all of this great information about what qualifies you for the seat. I'm going to piggyback off of that question, guys. And I'm going to ask, if you have to take over as governor for any reason, we'd like to know what will be the first thing or things, if there are more than one, what will be the first thing that you will do in that seat? And we will start with Representative Derrick Jackson.
Thank you, Dr. Bolton, for the question. The first thing I will focus on, if something should happen again to the governor and I had to fill that role, I will focus on the budget. I would make sure that our budget reflects our values and the priorities that we need for all working families here in Georgia. I would make sure that all 159 counties are not left behind or continue to be in the shadow. And when you look at a state that's #1 to do business, but we're not the #1 state for working families. We're not #1 to make sure that rural Georgia are taken care of. And so I'll be a governor to make sure that urban, suburban, and rural Georgia is properly reflected in the budget. I will start there.
Thank you, Representative. Dr. Hayes, what would you do first if given the opportunity to be governor?
Absolutely. That's a great question. Naturally, as a physician, I'm not happy that Georgia's ranked 43rd in healthcare. So I would aggressively push for not only Medicaid expansion, but I would push to get federally qualified health centers in underserved communities, not only in urban areas like in Atlanta and Augusta, but in South Georgia and also the other 148 counties that are deemed medically underserved. When we do this, we can help to bridge the gap with the healthcare inequities that we have here in Georgia. In addition, I'm also learning that we have multiple areas and counties within Georgia that don't even have enough hospitals. I would also look at the certificate of need that's going on and look to push for a certificate of need for hospitals in underserved communities, and also look at trying to get a medical school down there in the south of Georgia so we can actually provide medical service, proper, competent medical service to the people, not only in the south of Georgia, but all of Georgia.
Thank you. Representative Shannon, what would you do?
I would expand Medicaid immediately for the state. I would expand voting rights. We've seen our voting rights chipped away by Republicans over the last decade or so. So I would expand voting rights. I would make sure that we are doing what's necessary to make things better for working families. So that includes paying workers a livable wage. That includes making sure that folks have the right to collective bargaining. And then lastly, Georgia is a leader, an international leader in incarceration. I would end mass incarceration in Georgia. Right now, we've got a situation where folks are being put on probation and ending up in the criminal justice system just for getting a speeding ticket that they can't pay. The bottom line is we got to have somebody in this seat who's ready to invest in Georgians, and that person is me.
Thank you, Representative. Congressman Hall, what would be your priorities?
Yes, thank you. Thank you again. Well, first of all, I would be standing right next to our governor, Stacey Abrams, and trying to focus on doing all the things to balance what's necessary to move the Senate forward. And if I were to step in the position and have to lead, I would, one, try to carry the mantle for the items that were already placed on the table. I would reach out and then focus on the budget, focus on expanding Medicaid, making sure that we provide prosperity to all Georgians. We have a lot of great counties, great cities all over the state that have been left behind from the growth that we see happening in select parts of the state. And it needs to be inclusive growth, growth that empowers people to have $15 an hour like we passed at the city of Atlanta, expunges criminal records for possession of less than an ounce of cannabis. There's so many measures that we've already passed on the local level that the state is behind on. And we need to pass those same type of measures. And I would use my executive power to make that happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And just doing a quick check, I do not see Mr. Tony Brown. So Tyrone Brooks, Mr. Brooks, what would you prioritize?
Okay. First of all, depending on where we are at that moment in time when I take office, I'd like to begin initially focusing on our economy. I think it all starts there, and more specifically, modernizing our economy and expanding our economy. And what that means is we need to create an ecosystem and ensure that everyone's at the table. Private investment, our municipalities, our public schools, our police all need to be at the table generating and identifying ideas that generate revenue. I have $1 billion plan to identify 20 feeder counties in Georgia that will be able to increase our revenue by generating $50 million in each of those counties annually. I think we start there. And next, I'd like to establish an Office of Equity at the state level to have a focus on urban renewal, rural investment, LGBTQ affairs, sustainability, immigrant affairs, and youth engagement. I think those are core areas in the state that we need true leadership, true investment, and real legislation passed.
Thank you. Attorney Bailey, what would you do first?
Well, in this scenario, if I were to become governor, if we had not done it yet, and there's, as you're seeing here, there's a lot of agreement, but if we'd not done it yet, we've got to expand Medicaid, and that would be where my primary focus would be. That would provide health insurance, healthcare for over 600,000 Georgians. I'm from rural Georgia, rural West Georgia. We've had 8 rural hospitals closed in the last 10 years. It's an abject moral failing on behalf of the Republican leadership that it's not been expanded. So that would be my first focus right there. And it would be the greatest economic development engine that we could bring to bear here in the state of Georgia. So expanding Medicaid, expanding Medicaid, expanding Medicaid.
Thank you. And Representative Allen, what would you prioritize?
You know, to me, this is a softball question because this isn't about me. And I'm going to get away from the talking points and just say, if for some reason I were called to complete the term of the first Black female governor in our country, I will make sure that her agenda gets passed. We all know what Stacey Abrams' priorities are. This is not about me. It's about completing that term. And I would make sure we respect her in the right way and make sure that everything in that agenda gets done.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you to all of the candidates for elaborating on what your priorities are. Dan, would you like to take the next question?
Thank you, Dr. Bolden. Next question, starting with Representative Allen. There is a chance, good chance, that Georgia will have a divided government. If you are elected, how will you work with members of the opposing party to serve all Georgians? You have 1 minute.
Yeah, it's a great question. And we know we will likely have a divided government. I think it's in all reality, there will be a Republican-led Senate and a Republican-led House when we're sworn in January of 2023. Having those relationships and understanding how that body works, how the legislature works, I would use that to, as I said earlier, it's not checkers, it's chess. And we've got to make sure that we're tending to the relationships in the right way, but not sacrificing our democratic values in order to get things done. And there are ways to do that, to expand Medicaid, invest in our teachers, public education. All of those things are possible, but we have to go about it the right way. So the relationships are extremely important to make sure that we don't run into that gridlock that we see so much in Washington, D.C.
Thank you. Charlie Bailey, same question to you.
Yeah, so I think that like everybody said, we're likely not going to take back the state Senate this year. I think most people think we'll gain a seat, though. That'll put us at 23 votes. It means you need 6 votes. 6 votes to pass something through the state Senate. I actually believe when we talk about expanding Medicaid, or when you talk about, as I proposed, making technical school tuition free in the state of Georgia, again, there's going to be a lot of support for that, particularly from rural Republicans. And you got to make the argument to them. You got to bring them the statistics. They know how their people are hurting. They know what they're losing out on in terms of healthcare and opportunities for education. So present them the arguments, show how it helped their people. And I think we can get the votes. I'm confident we can get the votes to do both of those things.
Thank you. Tyrone Brooks, same question to you.
Okay. Yes, I think it's all about inclusion, treating others the way you want to be treated. Reaching out to the other side of the aisle should be a no-brainer. It should be something we all should embrace. Identifying pragmatic approaches. What things do all communities want? I mean, you just go with the common sense things that all Georgians are seeking. And I believe that you can gain consensus from Republicans and independents to support those. So I think you always start there. That is rarely done when the Republicans are in office. They rarely reach out to us. But I think if we can be leaders, we can treat others the way we want to be treated. We start there. We make sure our democratic values are always intact and we're moving the state forward. But there are things that Republicans agree with us on, and we should start there and let the chips fall where they may.
Thank you. Congressman Hall, same question to you, 60 seconds.
Yes, thank you so much. This is a great question because it made me think about, number one, there will be more than likely a Republican majority, but I will still be the leader as lieutenant governor. And what that means is, I already have a track record for working with the staunch right central business district at times, who work with me in partnership to bring over $2 billion of investment in parts of the district that never would have seen that investment if I would not have had the ability to build relationship and focus on a shared agenda to get things done, not pushing my agenda, but making sure I hear the opposite side's needs and wants and trying to deliver in a compromised fashion. I've done it before. I can do it again at the state level. Again, I've passed over 750 pieces of legislation with very, very difficult individuals to work with. And some of them were Republican on the city council, and some just didn't agree. And it's really hard to bring people together when they have power of district.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you again for having me.
Thank you, Congressman. Dr. Hayes, same question to you, 1 minute.
Great question. And absolutely, we will have a Republican-led Senate and likely a Republican-led House. One of the things I tell people is that I'm a physician. And one thing is that I'm here for people. I live and I work and I run for office in a Republican-led district, got 47.2% of the vote in a Republican-led district. Although we didn't flip it, but it showed I was a great candidate for Democrats and also a candidate that Republicans respect. I'm a small business owner. I'm also a fiscal conservative with response to the budget as well. So I would stress that to each individual with the Republican Party, especially a Republican-led Senate, and develop relationships with everyone that's there and stress to them, I'm here for people.
Thank you. I see a message in our chat that says Tony Brown is back. Are you back, Tony Brown? Going once. Going twice. You are back. Okay, great. Tony Brown, we'll ask the same question to you. Lieutenant, there's a chance that Georgia will have a divided government. How will you work with members of the opposing party to serve all Georgians? You have 1 minute.
Yeah, that's just simple too. People person, like most of everyone said, being military for over 20 years, you just learn how to, and I was joint. I was probably the first purple person over 14 years, was joint. So I just know how to work with individuals. And that's, the short and simple question there. Answer.
Thank you. Representative Jackson, same question to you, 60 seconds.
Dan, I appreciate the question. As one that worked at the federal level, state level, and in corporate America, the two skill sets that I leverage to get things done is to work with consensus building, because understanding that we all should understand the vision and work towards that mission, but work in the most collaborative way. And as a leader, to be able to influence everyone to get on board with that vision and work towards a collaborative way to get things done. And that's the reason why I'm the best candidate for this job, because I effectively got it done at the federal level, state level, and in corporate America.
Thank you. Representative Shannon, same question to you, 60 seconds.
Thank you. Well, the proof is in the pudding. A lot of candidates are talking about they would just simply reach across the aisle. That's not how it works in General Assembly. Republicans don't care about what it is that you want to do. You've got to figure out a crafty way to get your priorities done. And so, as I mentioned before, leading the effort to expand Medicaid, this was something that Republicans never wanted to give me credit for. It was something that I worked out a strategy to be able to make Republicans understand that this was something they had to do in the face of them restricting reproductive freedom. I worked with the budget chair. I worked with outside groups to put pressure on Republicans to do this. And I made the case as to why Georgia absolutely had to do this if Georgia was serious about saving lives. And so what I'm trying to say is just that this is more than just reaching across the aisle. You've got to know how things work in the General Assembly, and you've got to know the best ways to get things done.
Thank you. Dr. Bolton.
Yes, I am excited. We are getting into the meat and potatoes of this all. And so the next question is going to be one that you probably did not anticipate, maybe a little bit non-traditional for forums of this type, but it will allow us to understand a little bit more about your approach to governing and your thought process. And so now that I've piqued your interest, the question is, so the lieutenant governor currently runs separately from governor on the ticket. Do you think the lieutenant governor and governor should run on the same ticket? And if so, explain, or if not, explain why. And so we are going to start with Representative Shannon.
Thank you for the question. I think that the way that we have it now, where the lieutenant governor and the governor run separately, is the way to go. I believe this because I know that this allows the public to get the candidate of their choice. And I think it makes our democracy stronger. So I'm in favor of keeping it the way we currently have it, where it is two separate elections.
Thank you so much. Representative Jackson, what would your approach be?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the current structure having the governor and the lieutenant governor run independent, right? I think there's so often we get this group think mentality that one way of doing things is the only way. And so running the governor and the lieutenant governor separate, not as a ticket, I think Georgian families win in the end. And it's a very healthy way to make sure that the current governing structure works in Georgia, because it's not about a ticket. It's about delivering for those who have been in the shadows, who need Georgia and their government to work for them effectively. That's what it's about.
Thank you, Representative. Dr. Hayes, what would your ticket look like?
This is a great question. You know, Georgia is one of 18 states in which the lieutenant governor and the governor runs on the separate ticket. So currently I favor the current format, the way how Georgia is. We all mentioned about future Governor Abrams becoming our governor here in Georgia. But one thing I do want to let people know that it's a possibility that she might not become governor. So we have to have a lieutenant governor who can win and continue to push Democratic values and have the ability to work with a Republican governor. So again, I do favor the current format where the lieutenant governor and governor runs on two separate tickets.
Congressman Hall, what are your thoughts?
I look forward to running on a separate ticket. I believe the current system is fine, but I look forward to us both winning, Governor Abrams and Lieutenant Governor Hall, in a very near term, so we can move our state in the right direction. We need to give our Georgia citizens a choice, and I think that's the best way to do it. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Mr. Brown, Tony Brown, what would your ticket look like?
I like the idea of still being on the separate tickets. This is a personal note. I spent a lot of years in Virginia, in the Pentagon and so forth, in the state of Virginia, where it was Douglas Wilder. And I've always said an African-American can run and win lieutenant governor. And my friend Winston Sears went to my family church, and I've known her for 20, 30 years. And now she's the first African-American on the Republican side lieutenant governor. So I'm in favor of that, running on this separate tickets.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks, what would be your approach?
I think the current format is adequate. I think it gives candidates an opportunity to stand on their own platform, not hide behind who's at the top of the ticket. Stand on your own 2 feet and let the voters vote. I'm fine with it.
Straight to the point. Attorney Bailey, would you run on separate tickets as well?
Yeah, I think the process we have now is the right one. It gives the voters and the people of Georgia a choice about who their lieutenant governor is going to be, and I'm not in favor of taking away that choice. There's separate powers, as we've talked about, the lieutenant governor has, both legislative and executive, that exists outside of the governor. And I think that the people of Georgia and the voters ought to be able to select who that person is. So I think the way we have it set up now is the correct way.
Thank you. Representative Allen, what say you?
I think we're all going to agree on this. I think the way the system is set up now is the way it should be, and not only because we don't want to have the coattails or the other components into it, but the role of lieutenant governor is very unique and has some independence. And I think because of that independence, the voters should have a right to choose who they want in that seat presiding over the Senate.
Thank you, everyone. And I just want to remind all of our viewers that DeKalb Dems will be having forums every week for the rest of the month and through next month. So make sure you go to our website, DeKalb Dems website, to tune in to all of the forums so you can stay informed about who will represent you. Okay. And at this time, I will swing it over to Dan.
Thank you, Dr. Bolton. I appreciate it. That was a quick round of questions. That's good. We might be able to get to a couple more. So this next question, we're going to start with Representative Allen. The lieutenant governor has high profile, but doesn't have a whole lot of power under state law. If you're elected, how will you use your profile and public platform to accomplish your goals? This is for Representative Allen to start. 1 minute.
Yeah, so I first want to challenge the premise, and I know we only get a minute, so I'm gonna go fast, but challenge the premise that don't have much power. It's been said by a couple of different people on the panel tonight that the lieutenant governor, you can't boil it down to just the 40 days in the legislative session. There are 325 other days in the year where you can advance agenda forward with the appointments to various boards and authorities, to different study groups. You can commission your own committees. The current lieutenant governor has 4 or 5, I believe, committees that he has studying different things like technology and entrepreneurship. So there's a lot of power in lieutenant governor, and we can't cede that power by telling voters that it really doesn't exist. I think we have to make sure that we have that independence of the lieutenant governor and make sure that people understand the impact that this role can have on working families and everyday Georgians.
Thank you. Charlie Bailey, same question to you.
Yeah, so again, a bit of an issue with the premise. The lieutenant governor's office does have a good bit of power, but I'll use that the example of Medicaid expansion or making technical school tuition free in the state of Georgia. If that does not pass the state Senate, then you have to be willing to use the bully pulpit. And I'll tell you what I'll do. After making the good faith argument to the Republicans, if they don't come along, I'll go to every TV station, every radio station. I'll talk to every newspaper in the state, and I'll tell them in every single one of those districts how many of their citizens now don't have health care because of an action they took. How many of their citizens don't have access to tuition-free technical school because of a decision that they made. And when we come back around in the next session, maybe they will be corrected in their view, and I'll use that public power forcefully.
Thank you. Tyrone Brooks, you have 60 seconds, same question.
I think I do agree, the lieutenant governor does have some powers, and it doesn't have to be just during the Senate. I think year-round lieutenant governors, as I would do as lieutenant governor, I would facilitate the conversation between these key constituencies around the state. I keep focusing on our private sector because I truly believe that we need to have more robust investment in our state. I think the lieutenant governor can use their bully pulpit to have a committee and make sure that everyone is at what I call, it has a seat on the money train is what I call. And so from there, which you just have to ensure that you have everyone included. And as I stated before, that would be private sector, your municipalities, your public schools, you want to have your public enforcement. Everyone needs to be at the table identifying what's needed in these communities. And I think the lieutenant governor can be a key component of that.
Thank you. Attorney Brown, same question to you.
I apologize. For some reason, my computer keeps going in and out. I just actually lose all disconnect. Yeah, basically, there's a couple things. You can start your own committees, and you also have the committee of the next governor. And basically, on a personal note, I would advocate for everybody forgets about the dual enrollment program, which on a personal note, Governor Kemp has, changed the law because of me and my kids every year. So that's one of the issues that I would definitely advocate for. I think it helps the educational system. My kids from 9th to 12th grade graduated with 2 associate's degrees and 180 credits and could have went to medical school at the age of 18 at the day they graduated from high school. So there are certain things, I would actually, advocate and campaign for throughout the state. And that's just one of the great ideas. And I have that up. Okay.
Thank you. Congressman Hall, same question to you.
Yes. So as a councilman, I was known in my 15 years of service as the 24/7 councilman. I'll be the 365-day lieutenant governor. So 365 LG, if you will, with the focus on not only doing things inside the chamber and being a leader there through the appointments and legislative process, but also inside of broader state government. There's power and leverage that you have there. There's power and leverage in the state broad community, meaning the business community, philanthropy, civic organizations, bringing them together towards a shared vision for prosperity and growth and real self-determination in communities that have not seen the support from the state government that they deserve. And as a lieutenant governor, that's a place where you can leverage your pulpit power. You can leverage your power of relationship. You can leverage your power to lead the legislative process. Thanks.
Thank you, Congressman. Where are we? Dr. Hayes, same question to you.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's a great question. If elected, I would utilize my relationships with people and continue to focus on more relationships with the Republican Party and also with other Democrats as well. We must make sure that we push for healthcare, economic growth, education, and also protecting the right to vote. I won't just sit there in an ivory tower. I will continue to operate for the American people. I will work with the hospital systems, talk to the CEOs and the boards about what we can do to make sure that we have healthcare systems ready to see patients when we pass Medicaid expansion. I will work with corporations and ask them to invest in underserved and rural communities with community job hiring and training, and also make sure that I reach out to the American people in Georgia all over. So yes, I would use my profile not only as a physician, but as a lieutenant governor to better the great state of Georgia.
Thank you. Representative Jackson, same question to you. 1 minute.
Dan, can you repeat the question? Because
absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I think the question.
I will reiterate, note that there has been some challenge to the premise of the question. My response to the challenge of the premise of the question is I didn't know a whole lot about the office before I came into moderate this debate, and I called some members of the legislature that I know. And that was their contention, that the job is not as powerful as it could be. And that is just the consensus that I got. But that said, the question is, the lieutenant governor has a high profile, but doesn't have a lot of power under state law. If you are elected, how will you use your profile and public platform to accomplish your goal?
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure I heard the question correctly. So thank you for repeating it. Sure. Let me be very clear, Dan. This is not about Derrick Jackson. This is not about Derrick Jackson's profile. This is not about my platform. This is about making sure that the people of Georgia get exactly what they want their government to deliver. We have over 108 counties in Georgia that are not even accepting Medicaid. We have over 71 counties that are living in poverty. So this is not about elevating my platform or my profile. This is about the people. And I want to make sure that I respond to your question appropriately, because if we're not focusing on the people, those 10.8 million Georgians, you lose sight of what really the lieutenant governor should be about. And that is to make sure that the people of Georgia get their government to respond to their needs and make sure mandated services are delivered. It's not about Derrick Jackson.
Thank you. And lastly, we'll ask Representative Shannon, same question to you, 60 seconds.
Yes. So what I would do is work heavily with the agencies. The state agencies have a vested interest in making sure that they maintain a good relationship with the General Assembly, because the General Assembly does the budget and provides funding. So what I would spend time doing is looking at all the different ways that we can have the agencies make rulings and do things that can advance our priorities today. Not everything needs to go through the legislature. In fact, some of the issues that came up with unemployment being dispersed not in a efficient way, a lot of those things were not issues of the legislature. They were issues with the Department of Labor. And so that's a prime example where there are things that we can do right now today that would make things better for working families and that would make things better for Georgians as a whole that don't even have to go through the General Assembly. So as a lieutenant governor, I would spend time working with agencies to advance our values through regulatory options.
Thank you. And Dr. Bolton, I want to be respectful of your time and the time of our viewers and the time of our candidates. We have about 15 minutes left, and I believe that is just enough time to give every candidate an opportunity for a closing statement. So I'd like to defer to you on that, see if you want to ask one more question or go on ahead and go into closing statements.
Oh, yes, you're right. We are low on time and we do want to make sure that we get everybody in. But I did want to make a couple of announcements. If you did not check the chat as of yet, there are links for you to join DeKalb Democrats organization so you can be a grassroots a voter, organizer, community leader. And so we do want everyone, if you are not yet a member, please click that link and join. Also, there are links in the chat to register for future forums that I mentioned previously. We do want you to attend all of them. Again, you have to be informed when you go to the ballot box, and this is where you can become informed about everyone from the top seat down to your most local seats. In addition, there's also a link to the Secretary of State's website. If you're not sure what district you're in, or you want to become more familiar with the candidates that have qualified, just click that link and you have all the information you need to stay informed. And so I have taken up probably about 2 minutes with those announcements. So yes, Dan, we are definitely going to get into our closing statements. Because we do have a hard stop at 7:30. And unfortunately, for those of you who put questions in the chat, we apologize we couldn't get to them, but I encourage you to go to the Secretary of State's website, get all of the candidates' information, their email addresses, and send them those questions personally.
Dr. Bolton, for the sake of time, may I recommend that we do 1 minute closing statements instead of 1 minute, 30 seconds?
Absolutely. And with that, we will start with Representative Shannon. Please share your 1 minute closing statement.
Well, thank you so much, DeKalb Dems, for hosting us tonight. House District 84 is located in DeKalb, and as the chair said earlier, we do have the best Democratic chair in the state. For my closing statement, what I would like to say to you is that I have vigorously defended our values and fought for the values that we all want to see, which primarily rests on investing Georgians. At the same time, I've also been able to make progress on the issues that we care about, like expanding access to healthcare. So elect someone to the lieutenant governor's office who understands policy and understands the impact that policy has on everyday Georgians. That person is me. I'm ready to invest in your future.
Thank you, Representative Jackson. 60-second closing, please.
Thank you, Dr. Bolton, and thank you, DeKalb Dems, for having us this evening. Listen, I'm going to get straight to the point. You got 9 candidates running for lieutenant governor. And if you start off with your metric with experience, and then start the next metric with character, I'm the only candidate that has 38 years of leadership and service. My career has got me to this point, and you need a lieutenant governor that's going to continue to fight for our democracy, voting rights, women's rights, civil rights. This is not something that I've just been doing the last decade. I've been doing this since 1983. And as your lieutenant governor, no one will be left behind. That's one of the things I learned in the military. And you need a lieutenant governor that's going to be a phenomenal executive officer to the governor to make sure that the vision and mission gets done for working families in Georgia for all 159 counties. No one will be left behind as a Lieutenant Governor Jackson is at the helm.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Hayes, your closing, please.
Thank you so much. I want to remind everyone that none of the candidates have been lieutenant governors or governors. And also the American people are tired of career politicians. I ask that you look at someone like myself, Dr. Jason Hayes, physician, small business owner, and philanthropist. Look at my skill set. Look at what I have done in my career: master's in public health, executive master's in business, small business owner, congressional intern, worked on the state policy level, and as a physician and have led teams and make decisions for people. I want people to know this very clearly, that we have 2 great United States senators right now in Ossoff, Senator Ossoff and Senator Warnock. And what's common about these 2 is that they never held office before running. So look at myself, Dr. Jason Hayes. Go to www.jasonhayesforga.com and also text Dr. Jason Hayes to 90678. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. Congressman Hall, give us your closing, please, sir.
Yes, thank you so much, Doctor, and thank you to DeKalb Democrats. I really appreciate your leadership on this, being the first out the gate. I'm Kwanzaa Hall, and I'm running to be your next lieutenant governor. Imagine Abrams Hall in November and us winning the ticket, and in January having Democratic leadership in our senator, in our governor, and our lieutenant governor. but I cannot do that without your support. Please visit www.kwanzahall.com. I need your vote so we can win this election in May. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, give us your closing.
Yes. Yeah, my website is browngovernor.com. You can go there. My cell phone number is right on there, so I'm reachable. Well-rounded. I think I've hit all the things from business owner to educator, secondary educator at high school. Hit all the tickets there. I believe that I will be a great asset, and I think we need we're going to make history. We need our first African-American Black female and our first brown lieutenant governor. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brooks, close us out.
Yes, I think the choices of direction are very clear. I am not nearly as, I'm not a career politician. I've never sat in the Gold Dome and watched these bills just fly by while watching our communities fail. I've run businesses, I've funded businesses, I've built constituencies in the philanthropic community. I've worked with youth, I've worked with our law enforcement, and I've funded sustainability projects. I've touched Georgia in all these different aspects. I was a congressional aide for 10 years. I understand Georgia greatly. I am Georgian. And when I speak to Georgia residents, they tell me they're looking for a different direction. They're not looking for career politicians. They're not looking for people who've watched our communities fail and be left behind. They're looking for new ideas, bold initiatives that I bring to the table, funding rural Georgia, investing in urban Georgia, and ensuring that our youth have opportunities and leaving no one behind. This is what I represent. This is what Georgia's calling for. This is what America's calling for. We see the writing on the wall. Vote Brooks for Georgia.
Thank you. Attorney Bailey, give us your 60-second closing.
Yes, well, I've been a statewide Democratic nominee before. As many people know, 2018, I was the Democratic nominee for Attorney General. And as your nominee, I got 49% of the vote, the highest vote share of any down ballot statewide Democrat. And I got that even running against an incumbent, and the national Republicans and state Republicans spent $3.3 million just in negative against me. So I'm a proven statewide candidate, and I ask you to stand with me this time, as you did in 2018. Stand with endorsers of mine, like Congressman Hank Johnson, Congresswoman Lucy McBath, Governor Roy Barnes, Mayor Shirley Franklin. I promise you, you stand with me in this election, and you'll never have to apologize. And you'll always know my friend Charlie, he fights for us. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you. And now we will have Representative Eric Allen. Your closing, please.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Bolton, Chairman Jackson, and the DeKalb Democrats. I'll keep it real simple. I'm running on a record and not on rhetoric. I am the only person in this race that has won in a general election in November against a Republican. We cannot win this race in May. We're gonna have to win it in November. I'm also the only person in this race who has a perfect rating from the NAACP, as well as a perfect rating from Georgia Conservation Voters Fighting for Our Environment. I was 2021 Legislator of the Year from the Georgia Mental Health Consumer Network. I am not a career politician, but I'm also not afraid to lean into my experience, because that's what we're going to need presiding over the Senate. It's naive to think that we can run for a seat to be one of one, but not have the experience to govern over the Senate. So I look forward to continuing this conversation. Thank you guys for having us tonight. And I look forward to seeing you face to face sometime soon.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having each of you join us today. And we're really glad that you came and brought your best game to give us all this wonderful information that we'll use again when we go to the ballot box. We have more links in the chat to take action with DeKalb Democrats. So make sure you're clicking those links, guys. Thank you, President John Jackson, for allowing us to host this event. And at this time, I will turn it back over to Gloria Moore, chair of this event, to give us a closing out, unless you had a remark, Dan.
Well, I did want to thank all of our candidates. First, there's quite a few veterans in this group, so I wanted to thank you personally for your service to our country. And I also wanted to thank all of you for your interest in public service. It takes a deep bench of qualified people to bring good government to everyone. And we know that this is a tremendous imposition on your time. So I did want to thank all of you for your interest in public service and for putting yourselves out there to run for public office. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me.
Well, Dan and Ladina, thank you so much for doing a fabulous job. I really appreciate our moderators kicking off our first forum in our candidate series. And I especially appreciate the fact that all of our Democratic candidates for Lieutenant Governor were here. You folks did an excellent job introducing yourselves. I will encourage all of the folks who are here with us, all of our audience, to take this as a first look and find ways to hear more from our candidates. DeKalb Dems is here to support Democratic candidates, and so we were delighted to have all of you here. And again, thank you to the candidates, thank you to our moderators. Special thanks to all of those folks behind the scenes who make this happen. Thank you to my co-host, or at least co-committee chair, Steve Parker, who helped put this together. And a special thanks to our audience. Thank you for staying with us through this whole process. We appreciate you, and we hope to see you on April 2nd, which is our next event, our next forum, and we'll be interviewing the candidates for labor commissioner and agricultural commissioner. Thank you so much and good night.
Good night.
Thank you all very much. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for making me a part of it. I appreciate it.
Have a good night.
I was asked to say something out loud.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Eric Allen.